Now, according to my next guest, after Elvis, the world shifted course. That's what he says. He feels the reach of the king went far beyond merely influencing the evolution of music. He has written a book looking at this influence from an Irish perspective. It is called Elvis and Ireland and is full of fascinating details, like the fact that this song from the movie King Creole failed to pass the censor here in Ireland. I wonder why.
One banana, ripe and ready, this banana. Come and pick it off the tree. Wait, hey honey, if your heart does not go reeling when you see banana peeling, then monsieur, you are fini.
And in case you didn't catch any of the lyrics, offensive lyrics as they were considered at the time, sung by actress Liliane Montevecchi in the film King Creole, they are bananas. Anybody want bananas? Ripe and ready, this banana. Come and pick it off a tree. Fairly innocent, I would have thought. Anyway, Ivor Casey is author of Elvis and Ireland. Good afternoon to you. Very welcome to the programme. So, the Banana song was censored in 1958. Why?
Well, in 1958, Elvis was this subversive character, as we all know, you know, when he came along.
Subversive?
Well, he was considered subversive, yeah. From the, I suppose, the religious perspective, he was considered the devil, the agent of Satan, devil's music, rock and roll. Most of us know the story of that music being so radical for the time, but when King Creole came along to Ireland, the censor at the time, Liam O'Hara was his name, and he wanted 8 cuts of the film, and that was one of the cuts he wanted. But because the studio wouldn't cut that among 7 other cuts, they banned the film.
The film
here.
never made it. I suppose you'd have to have seen the movie and remember the scene. So describe the scene. What's going on when Lillian is singing?
Well, she's scantily clad. She's laying across a palm tree. She has bananas hanging off her clothing, and she's picking them off and throwing them at the audience while she, moves about essentially across the stage. So it was a bit too. It seemed to be
risque, perhaps.
Bit too risque.
It's
yes.
very mild by today's standards.
Oh, very, very mild. But it was 1958, so I suppose we're thinking of a different era altogether.
God, Love Hate would never have made it to our screens. No question about it. But I suppose subversive in the sense that it was rock and roll. He was gyrating his hips and all that kind of stuff. That wouldn't have gone down too well with the Catholic Church, would it?
Not at all. No. I source and I cite a lot of people who remember the times, who were right there in the 50s, and you'll see in the book that a lot of people who did experience it, they came across a lot of priests who were calling Elvis a sexual degenerate, that he was the agent of Satan. Even Archbishop Charles McQuaid is known to have set up a vigilant committee to find out, or he had spies who went in search of people who were listening to what they called un-Catholic music.
Are you taking the you-know-what? Are you serious?
No, it was absolutely true, yeah.
For heaven's sake. Anyway, this was the only film, as I understand, that was completely banned, but scenes were removed from other movies that Elvis starred in.
That's right, yeah. The film Wild in the Country, Blue Hawaii. We think of Blue Hawaii now. It's a child's movie by today's standards. It's a beach movie, but there's a lot of sexual references in it, which were censored by Liam O'Hara at the time as well. Luckily, it didn't get banned, I suppose, but it was another sign of Elvis having this massive impact on Ireland. This is the way he was being received here, that he was somehow this agent of Satan.
He was mentioned in the Dáil, I believe.
Yeah, that's for sure. In 1959, he was brought up in some Dáil debates because at the time RTÉ Radio Ireland didn't play Elvis's music. Rock and roll wasn't played here in the 50s, mainly due to all that condemnation. Some of the politicians, there were a few Fine Gael politicians in the Dáil at the time who brought Elvis up in their debates, talking about how he was becoming so popular abroad. People were tuning into Radio Luxembourg because they wanted to hear this exotic music, which was considered.
Yeah, sure, look, if you want people to listen to it, ban it.
Yeah.
Look at Frankie Goes to Hollywood. If you remember that,
sure.
Relax.
Yeah.
Ban it. Everybody wants to hear it.
Yeah. So the politicians, they were talking about how Radio Luxembourg was getting more money because people were tuning into them and tuning away from RTÉ, and it became a debate in the Dáil whether RTÉ should play Elvis's music or not.
And so what happened?
Eventually they did. There was a lot of requests that came in. There was a demand for Elvis music. It even became the subject of a debate in one of the national newspapers whether RTÉ should play Elvis's music or not, or rock and roll in general after that.
Anyway, I believe he wrote to Irish fans. Did he ever actually come to Ireland?
No, he never came to Ireland, but he never went outside of America other than
when he was in Germany.
Other than when he was in the army, yeah. He did a few shows in Canada, but his manager didn't want him performing outside of America. There's a lot of mysterious reasons as to why. One of the more commonly accepted rumours is that his manager was an illegal immigrant in America, which no one knew. Not even Elvis was aware of this. And if the manager had left, of course, he wouldn't have had an easy time getting back into America. Another reason, though, is that he kind of had he was a very shrewd businessman, Colonel Tom Parker, and he felt like he could keep Elvis exclusive to America. Kind of created more of that mythical status for Elvis, that if you kept him here, people had to travel to Las Vegas to see Elvis rather than him coming to you. And I think that was part of the business strategy at the same time.
Well, it makes a lot of sense, I suppose. Now, you were born 6 years after Elvis died, I'm told. So when did your fascination with this great man begin?
Well, in 1997, it was the 20th anniversary of Elvis's death. I was 13 at the time. I was captivated by the excitement of his performances when they showed them all over TV that weekend, and I was just drawn to him for some reason. I studied music when I was a child. I studied singing and vocal technique, and I could understand Elvis's approach to music was very much about the importance of singing, the importance of actually stretching and using your voice. That is not something that just happens, And he had that song always in my mind out at the time, and I was drawn to that because it was the first time I realised a singer sings songs about issues which affect them deeply, opposed to just taking any song that's handed to them.
I believe you were bullied in school because you liked Elvis.
Yeah, well,
seems a bit odd. Why would somebody bully you in school just because you like Elvis?
I know, it's a case where, Elvis was a dead singer. He was somebody who was around long before my generation. So, it wasn't kind of accepted that you would like anything that old. Kids are kids. I was very impressionable at the time. Being into music is kind of like being into having religion in a sense. It's a very personal thing, and to have liked anything that was outside the norm was a reason for bullying.
So when you were a kid in school, what was the norm in terms of music?
I didn't really pay much attention to what was popular.
Oh, right. You went your own way.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah, I was drawn to music just for the sake of the music as opposed to what was popular.
Now, you are, as I understand it, the world's youngest Elvis biographer. Can that be true? How old are you now?
I'm 29 now, so I'm pretty sure it's I'm the youngest biographer in the world. I've done enough research to check that most of the people who have written books on Elvis are roughly 50 plus now, and it is an unusual thing.
And is this the only book about Elvis and his relationship to Ireland?
It is the first one, yeah.
The first. There's going to be many more. Are you going to write another one? Is there going to be a follow-up, a sequel?
Well, it's certainly the first book. I'm hoping will be the only one. It's a definitive catalogue, I think, of all the connections and influences he had.
He did sing Irish songs, though, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he did these standards like Danny Boy and I'll Take You Home Again, Kathleen.
I've actually heard that.
Yeah,
and it's a terrific version, by the way.
He was again, he took on these songs with absolute dedication, and growing up, he would have heard people like John McCormack and Joseph Locke on the radio. He expressed in an interview in Germany that he had a keen interest in Irish tenors, and we see that influence coming across when he did a few of those kind of recordings. He also recorded a song by Phil Coulter, My Boy, which Richard Harris had originally sung. The Irish actor Richard Harris had sung that originally, and when Elvis heard it, Elvis said he'd like to do it as well.
Is it a good song?
Yeah, so I
don't think I've ever heard that one.
It's a very good song. Yeah. It's a very nice. It's again about a relationship. It's a story. It kind of fitted Elvis' repertoire in the 70s after he had divorced from his wife. Elvis sang a lot of songs which reflected this kind of downtrodden, sad, tragic kind of figure. He sang a lot of poignant songs until his death, and that kind of song fits that kind of repertoire.
And he's been covered by many Irish artists also, hasn't he?
It has, yeah. There's been quite a few. Johnny Logan's an example of one as well. And But for Elvis, it's one of the main songs of his later years. It became a number 4 hit at the time, and it's nice to have that link back to Ireland too, among all the other links that are there.
Is Bono a fan? You mentioned Bono in the book.
Yes, Bono is quite a fan. I mentioned Bono on U2. There's a section on Elvis's influence on U2, and Bono, I met him there a few months ago there in Dalkey. Bono, he said he was delighted to be part of the book. He's been reading it, and he's quite a fan. He's written essays for Rolling Stone magazine. He's narrated documentaries on Elvis. He's covered many Elvis songs, and he always, expresses his very keen admiration.
I know, you think he'd get his own act. But I'm only joking, of course. And I see Don Conroy has drawn a sketch of Elvis in the book, and fantastic sketch, good old Don.
Yeah, Don, one of the things I faced, I started writing the book 10 years ago, actually, when I was 18. And, one of the things I faced, the problems I faced with trying to get the book published was that a lot of publishers wanted me to provide photographs, which was very difficult in my position to be able to get some photographs.
Copyright, etc.
Copyright, and just a lot of people who would have had their own photographs growing up, because people who would have got to see them, people who have produced books already, have put in their own personal photographs. But obviously, in my circumstances, I wasn't going to have that. So I got some artists that I knew to draw some pictures, and I thought it would add an extra Irish dimension, having artists.
It does. Well done to you anyway. It's called Elvis and Ireland by Ivor Casey. The world's youngest Elvis biographer, as we understand it. And as Ivor has said, this is the only book that he's aware of that talks about Elvis and his relationship to Ireland. It's published by Apello. Who are Apello? Is that your own?
It's my own publishing company.
And where is it available then in that case?
It's available in Eason's nationwide. It's available on Amazon and Celtic Note on Nassau Street and Tower Records in Wicklow Street.
Well, listen, the very best of luck, and we'll put the details of your signing on our website, rte.ie/Mooney. Elvis and Ireland by Ivor Casey.
Oh, Danny boy, and I'll be there for me.
It's all a bit morbid today, isn't it? I have to say, but it's a wonderful version of Danny Boy, I must admit. And the book is called Elvis and Ireland, and it's by Ivor Casey, and it's a damn good read. All you wanted to know about Elvis and his connection to Ireland, and in fact all the stuff you didn't want to know about Elvis and his connection to Ireland. If you're a fan of Elvis, then you must get a copy of it. All details on our website, as always, rte.ie/Mooney.